This is Black Writers Read. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today for episode 8 of season 6 of Black Writers Read. My name is Nicole Young Martin, and I'm the founder, producer, and host of this series. I just realized my lighting's a little weird, but I've been in conversation with today's guests, yes, guests plural, for about a year, and I'm very excited to finally have them on. They are, as I do with all of my guests before we start the conversation here, I chat with them a little bit offline, and oh my God, they're so cute. They're so cute. They're so cute. And like I said to them, I feel like things happen in their own time. I've had on guests who are romance writers, and romance is a very expansive genre. There's about 30 or so subgenres. And then I've had on writers from Baltimore and Greater Baltimore. So I think this is a great intersection for today's conversation. I'm so excited. So let's get today started. Black Writers Read showcases, celebrates, and honors the words, work, and traditions of Black writers from across the country, across genres, across experiences, and across the African diaspora. Black Writers Read is a behind-the-scenes conversation into the craft and what it means to create as a Black author in today's society. Since starting this series on Juneteenth in 2020, we've hosted over 90 authors representing over 15 genres from 6 countries and 26 states. Our platform includes live stream interviews, audio podcasts, book clubs, and curriculum integration assistance. Find us online at blackwritersread.com. Today, we welcome Naomi Rivers. Naomi Rivers writes lesbian romance and women's fiction. Naomi Rivers is a wife writing team, so you'll be seeing 2 authors, who believes in romance, fairy tales, and happily ever after. Their first novel, This, a simple, complex love story, was written over 20 years to maintain their connection during multiple deployments. They are both U.S. military veterans and reside with their See, I'm sorry, they're so cute. I've read this bio so many times, but reading it aloud hits differently. I'm like, with their 2 rescue dogs on the East Coast. Naomi's work has appeared in I Heart SapphFic's anthology, Favorite Scenes from Favorite Authors, and From a Black Perspective, The Homeland. Their second book, Why Not Us, is scheduled for release on November 11th of this year. This, a simple, complex love story, is set in Baltimore's iconic Inner Harbor, which is known for its historic port, picturesque beauty, and tourist attractions. I've actually been there. Can it also be the perfect setting to make a love connection? Jasmine, a pragmatic social worker, struggles to keep her long-term relationship intact. T, an art teacher by day and an elusive artist by night, gave up on a relationship a long time ago. Let's see. When the 2 meet at the harbor by chance, their unexpected chemistry challenges their ideas about life and expectations for love. But does love have to be complicated? Or is it possible to simply live in the moment and see where the unexpected leads? See, this is a book that needs to live off the page and become real life. Here's a little bit on their forthcoming novel, Why Not Us? When Jasmine's best friend, Leslie, is diagnosed with cancer, there's no other place to run but straight into the chaos, holding Leslie's hand through doctor's appointments, rounds of treatment, and every uncertain moment. Both T, Jasmine's longtime girlfriend, is unsure of how to stay connected when everything feels like it's falling apart. Then there's Portia, Leslie's 9-year-old daughter, who's growing up in the shadow of her mother's illness. Jasmine has promised to protect her like her own, but it's harder than she imagined. Along the way, Jasmine and T's couple time gets overshadowed by a whirlwind of after-school activities and family drama that threatens to engulf their relationship. As the challenges mount, Jasmine and T must confront their own insecurities and learn what partnership truly means. Can their love survive the harsh realities of caregiving, sacrifice, and the weight of it all? Learn more about Naomi Rivers and their work by visiting their website at naomiriversbooks.com. You can also purchase signed copies of their books via their website. Throughout our time together, I'll be sharing links to their website, also to pre-purchase, pre-order Why Not Us, and to find them on Instagram. For those of you who are new to Black Writers Read, here's what happens. Naomi Rivers will share excerpts from their work, and then we'll chat. I will be monitoring the chat and the comment sections from the respective platforms where people are joining us from today. I'll compile the questions and either pose them to our guests during our conversation or hold them to the end. I'd now like to welcome Naomi and Rivers to the virtual stage. Good afternoon.
Hi.
So great to have you both on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Good to be here.
Yay. So
Yay.
I'm going to turn it over to you to read, and I'll be right back to chat. So happy reading.
Okay. Thank you. What I'm going to share is something that I've changed to call Leslie's Lament. Heading towards Owings Mills on Ricestown Road looked different every time I drove outside of the Beltway. Home construction was booming, and it felt odd to me that there were so many residential properties in this area now. Cleared empty lots, concrete slabs, and framed houses in various stages of completion dotted the landscape. I remember where there were long stretches of undeveloped areas and only 2 strip shopping malls between McDonough and Painters Mill Road. I passed new eateries, craft stores, overpriced grocery stores, health and wellness salons, and budget fashionista stores where my sister Angel liked to shop. Leslie, I work hard every day. She often reminded me of her employment status when I mentioned her spending habits. The reflection caused the much-needed lightness to settle in my chest. After passing CJ's Seafood Restaurant, my landmark, I eased into the right lane. The turn to get to Garrison Forest Road came up so quickly, it was easy to miss. I made the trek out here a few times a year, almost once a season, to bring flowers on my parents' anniversary and birthdays, and I occasionally added a little color around Christmas. That wasn't always possible. The weather could be sketchy, making navigating the winding roads dicey with ice or snow. I made a right into the cemetery and a quick left to head to Mommy and Daddy's area. The peace out here among majestic trees and manicured meadows that were always spotless was indescribable. Cemeteries were often well kept, but there was something about a veteran cemetery that looked so stark and uniform, marble headstones precisely aligned. My parents were buried in the colubrium between sections Q and R, which I always thought of as quiet rest. Daddy died first in 1987 from a stroke. Years of backbreaking work and systemic racism at the steel mill cut his life way too short. Mommy joined him 10 years later after her cancer spread to her spine and lungs. I was still at Coppin State College in my 3rd year studying business and health administration when Daddy passed away. I vividly remembered coming home from class to an unusually quiet house, devoid of the constant chatter and human activity that was the norm. I was sitting in the dining room table working on a research paper when Mommy and Aunt Marcia came through the door in tears. My father was very much a man of his generation. Angel and I figured out early that his idea of a good man meant being a good provider. He went to church on Easter, Mother's Day, Mommy's birthday, if it fell on a Sunday, and maybe a fall event or Christmas pageant if Angel and I were involved. Otherwise, Sunday was for sports, grilling, and occasionally seeing a man about a horse, whatever that meant. My mother said going to Vietnam changed him. Drafted instead of heading off to college, he didn't have connections in high places to avoid the horrors of war. Having dated since they were in junior high school kids, my mother witnessed firsthand how my father was hardened by what he experienced. He rarely shared anything about those days with us kids. We only heard snippets when my uncles visited or after Daddy had a few drinks and started belting out Edwin Starr's most well-known song with added bass. Thank goodness it wasn't hot yet. Despite it being August and late morning, the elm tree canopies offered enough shade to cause the breeze to prickle my exposed arms. My wardrobe choice wasn't made with my present environment in mind. I had beelined out here to have a family conference after my breast ultrasound this morning. Not a whole family conference, to be honest. I really just wanted to be with my mother. I miss Gloria Sharp at random times, trying to bake one of her signature cakes, wanting to complain about something Angel did or said, but at times like this, consequential, life-altering moments, my heart desperately ached for her sage counsel and gentle spirit. The tech this morning tried to keep a mental face, a neutral face, but I saw her apprehension. It wasn't my first ultrasound, but it was the first time that I felt a lump that led me to call Dr. Jordan in the first place. Thankfully, she didn't dismiss my concern and said, "Don't worry about it." Not that I thought she would. She sent a referral straight to the radiology office without hesitation, and I made a follow-up appointment to see her afterwards. A lawnmower hummed in the next section, bringing my awareness back to the present. The distinct smell of cut grass reminded me of how Daddy kept our own yard well manicured. A couple approached. The man tipped his hat ever so slightly towards me. The woman acknowledged me with soft eyes and a tepid smile. They paused in front of the rows of niches that contained our loved ones' remains. Both traced their fingers along the etched stone. Neither spoke. He said a quick prayer, I assumed, since he crossed himself while his lips moved, and she laid a bouquet of flowers at the base of the marble structure. I felt like I was intruding in a private family affair, but then, too, I had a good sense of what they were feeling. They passed me again, heading in the direction from which they come. Those same soft eyes were now red and filled with liquid. I closed my eyes, inhaled, and rightened every muscle I could, trying to keep my own tears at bay. Keeping a stoic face had never been my thing. Honesty and truth were. Like when Mommy's doctor told her she was looking at an advanced cancer, stage 3, in fact. It was difficult for me to put on a hopeful face. How many stages are there? My mother was already formulating a strategy. 4, Dr. Jordan replied. You always were a high achiever. I tried to lighten the heavy weight in the room. She laughed and did something that I absolutely wasn't prepared for. Gloria Sharp sucked in her lips, covered her mouth. And because her head was bowed, the water seeping from her eyes dampened the papers in her lap. Papers that held her frightening diagnosis. Dr. Jordan came around the desk and hugged her, leaning in to whisper something that I couldn't hear. My mother shed a few more tears, sniffed, and in a matter of seconds, morphed into the woman I knew and loved. Let's get this fight started. Mommy high-fived the doctor, who then winked at me. She's got this, and we're going to help. I was grateful for Dr. Jordan's positivity. My mother set aside the first Saturday in May prior to her double mastectomy to say farewell, but no one we knew had thrown a ta-ta party. When she said she wanted a small gathering, I should have known better. The backyard quickly became inadequate because Mommy kept inviting friends. We found a space, an event hall just off Security Boulevard. Nice place, easy parking, and good food. If people didn't have a good time, it was their own fault. I remember Mom dancing and shimmying her shoulders most of the night. Balloons decorated like breasts floated everywhere, and we gave out chocolate-shaped boobs as thank you gifts. Aunt Marcia thought it was in bad taste and shared her opinion with anyone who would listen. Many didn't. Being the infamous and well-connected Miss Gloria Sharp of the Ashburton community, Mommy also took the opportunity to raise money by having outrageously decorated pink and orange donation cans on each table. Proceeds benefited her new cancer support group, an alliance of Black women that Dr. Jordan recommended Mommy join, given her Baltimore connections and their connections to resources. Dr. Jordan said that she should go to a few different support groups, but the alliance worked primarily with Black women addressing their personal concerns. Mom, you certainly knew how to use your gifts. The sun was a bit higher, the shade having shifted a few feet now, and the rays warmed my skin. I looked around at other visitors standing in front of the wall. Before leaving, almost every single one of them brushed their fingers across the stone and whispered something, prayers perhaps, just as the first couple had done. I took a drink of water from the quickly thawing water bottle I had grabbed from my car's center console. October of the same year as the Tata party, there was no way Mommy was going to miss the annual breast cancer walk, even if I had to push her in a wheelchair. But that wasn't certainly Gloria Sharp. She was determined to use her own 2 feet despite constant fatigue, and walk she did, along with thousands of other survivors and supporters. Baltimore turned out in unprecedented numbers for the 1997 event, setting participation and fundraising records. Survivors started the race as we first cheered on a sea of mostly outfitted in colors ranging from pale pink to devilishly red. There were also men with survivor t-shirts on, even though their attire was a bit more understated. It was easy to forget that men got diagnosed with breast cancer too. The memories of that day were as vivid as today's bright sun. I felt them filling my chest with positivity and light, somehow providing comfort and courage. I filled my lungs as much as I could and slowly let the air out. Mom, I started aloud. There's a lump. And I've had an ultrasound this morning. I'm scared. My nostrils flared as my jaw tightened. The effort to hold back ugly, gut-wrenching sobs became futile. I have a daughter. I grinned to myself. Of course you know that. You had the opportunity to meet her. And you were there at her 1-year-old birthday party. She is going to be every bit of a true sharp woman, smart, assertive, and caring. I blew my nose with the one tissue that I realized I'd been holding since leaving the radiology office. What you may not know is that Paul is now an ex-son-in-law, an inconsistent parenting partner, as if I needed more stress. What am I going to do, Mommy? I'm really scared. Did you know that Angel had breast cancer too? It wasn't like I didn't know the drill as far as treatment went, but Portia made this different. I need to fight real hard, Mom. I need to be here for her. I need you, Grandma, and everyone else up there with you to send me some help. Passerbyers likely thought I was crying for the dearly departed, but I was blubbering and praying and pleading to stay in the land of the living. Thank you.
I love that was the section of the book that you read. And the reason why I say that is it shows the depth of your writing. It also encapsulates something that can happen in real life. Like one of the issues, I'll speak in terms of film and television, because I don't know, I'm still learning a lot about romance in terms of like novels. But like one of the things that challenged me about romance in terms of film and television series is that there was no other life outside of pursuing the love interest. And I'm like, hold up. Like, I was like, this doesn't, I'm like, yes, I believe in happily ever after. Yes, I understand like for some folks, the importance of pursuing, that love interest. But I'm also like, there's other life that exists. And also there's other parts of our identities that are we're whole people when we come to relationships. And I'm like, this is why, why I was so disconnected with romance as a genre in terms of film and television. So thank you for sharing that particular moment from the book.
So that is actually, it's a prequel, if you will, to kind of lead you into the second book, Why Not Us? And you're absolutely correct in that when we meet like real people out in various festivals, they want to know, like, are these like 20-year-old people that are, they're just partying, and then, to your point, their main interest is that love interest. But we're like, no, these are fully formed human beings that have life experiences, and there are things that impact them as people and thus then impact them as a couple. And so how you move in the world is about your friends, it's about your family, it's about all of it. It's about your coworkers. All of that makes you a fully formed human being and how you show up in the world. So thank you.
And then also too, because one of the things I teach is literature. And I always teach my students that people look to media for how they should live life. And I'm like, if it's all about just chasing a love interest, and I hate this whole "you complete me," and I'm like, okay, like it's so problematic for me. I'm like, so thank you both for writing.
And I think that's also just life experience, right? Maybe
Right.
at 20 or 30, somebody completes you. But by the time you get a little experience, a little wisdom, a little seasoning, no. It's good to have, but complete, not so much.
Yeah. And I married older. I married at 40, 41. So I'm like, you wrote this for me. So thank you. Yeah, so the first question that I have for you both is, what is the origin story of Naomi and Rivers, and how did the two of you meet?
You go.
So we originally met as friends at what was then known as MCI Center at down in Washington D.C. in the WNBA Mystics games, and we both had we liked basketball, and we both had season tickets, and we met, stayed in contact as couples of the people that are no longer in our lives, and we stayed in touch as friends. And when those previous relationships were no longer, we then there was an inciting event, but anyway, that we then started sort of courting each other at that point. And I was on active duty, and so we were in different parts of the country, and so as a way to stay connected, as you mentioned in the bio, Naomi suggested that we write. I thought it was a little writing exercise. She says that we started writing. We were writing a book.
Yes.
I was unaware. Nonetheless, we would write chapters or various parts of what is now a simple complex love story, and send it back and forth. And so she had primarily one voice, I primarily provided another voice, and that's how the first novel evolved.
And I love that the courting was writing instead of writing the letters of like from the Civil War. My dear beloved. Oh, how I miss you. Y'all wrote a book.
Don't get me wrong. That she's been all around the world, so there were a few emails that probably sounded kind of like that.
That's right.
But for the most part, well, how about this?
Maybe not as dramatic.
Not as dramatic, and maybe not as direct, because we were still living under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So we had to be real mindful of how some of that sounded, right? Because we didn't want to lose our good military standing.
No, and thank you so much for that reminder, because I'm up here like, yes, this is a couple in love. Oh, wait. There's laws that exist.
That's right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. That would put us out the military.
That's right. And lose our good government benefits.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So you both were in the military?
Mm-hmm.
So Naomi served in the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
I served in the Navy. And so, which means that, she served primarily here in the quote unquote homeland. I was, wherever what the Navy said home was. And so, like she mentioned, we would write emails and that, but one of the other ways that we would, have this exercise that, to live other people's lives, if you will, through fiction, and craft a story.
Nice. So can you talk a little bit about the writing process? Because when we were offline, you talked a little bit about like the editing process and all that. Can you talk about like how you get from, especially since you are a wife writing team, can you talk about how you get from idea to finished product?
So the first book, we didn't know what we were doing. Let's write a book. Okay. Even though that's not supposedly how they went. But anyway, so Rivers started it. She sent it, sent what she wrote. I responded. Some probably not as detailed as she did, because I get the words on the paper. She kind of adds the sauce to it. But sometimes whatever I sent back, she was like, what happened here? They broke up. So kind of like, so the kitchen shows, this is what you got to work with. It's tag, it's your turn. So, and so that went back and forth. And so we did both write in, whether it was Jasmine's or T's, within those chapters. So, that was our editing process. And then By the time she retired, we moved to Chicago for a brief period. Well, a brief period for me, because I lasted one winter. And you're just not supposed to be that cold. You're not. Loved it. Beautiful city, but I lasted one winter. So we met quite a few writers, whether self-published, traditionally published, and they were like, finish this. You got to finish this book. And we got an editor. Everybody recommended to get an editor because, of course, you know what you thought you wrote, right? You're a professor. You know what you thought you wrote. And the editor, she was wonderful. We met her in a bookstore at another author event, and she was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do it." And that's how we got an editor. And I think she almost ruined us a little bit, because sometimes we read books now and we're like, Pamela wouldn't do this. No, Pamela would do something a little different. But it was good. It was a good experience. And so by the time we got Why Not Us done and sent it to her, she was like, "Oh, this is good. You've grown." Didn't mean that there weren't significant amount of things that she wanted us to improve, but so that's our process.
So the second book, Why Not Us, was Naomi wrote the entire thing and then handed it off, unlike the first book, and then handed it off. And so then, I became both, sauce adder person and kind of editor, and then we then sent that manuscript to Pamela Dell, is her name, our editor, and she's wonderful. Yeah.
Nice. And I love that also, because you wrote the books within just a couple of years of one another. And for your editor to point out how you improved, that's amazing, because I know the editing process, it can be multiple drafts. And so that also kind of shows like how you grew between writing the two books.
Yeah. Now the editors saw them within a few years of one another, but this started literally 20 years ago.
Wow.
It just took us, between, me being deployed and that, and it just took a minute to get it to be a finished product to hand off to, someone. Now, of course, we know the process a little bit different. And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that is a good note to me, because I'm just like, I write poetry, playwriting, and I'm now starting to explore fiction and memoir. And I'm like, I don't have a book out yet. And I have a writing coach. And now I'm like, it will happen. It will happen when it needs to. Because when I hear that the first book, it was a 20-year writing process, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a little grace.
Give yourself some grace.
Absolutely.
Give yourself some grace.
And let me also add, because it had taken us 20 years, we did not want to go through the gatekeeping. And that's why we ended up doing it as a self-published. I still get upset about this, but we went to the Baltimore City Lit Festival, and we met with somebody who was, supposed to give you some encouragement and, kind of look at the stuff. She couldn't get past first that we were going to do this as indie authors. Mm-hmm. And it was like, no, this is really less than, and you should wait and get all of the rejection letters. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. No, thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. So,
right.
Wow.
Right.
So wait, she wanted y'all to be eaten up, chewed out, and like literally left for nothing and get beaten up by the industry before that.
That's right. So she used her, whatever it was, tens of rejection letters as a badge of honor to say, I got, and I don't remember the number, but it was a lot. It was a lot. Right. It was, I don't know. It was a lot. And she's like, oh, and I kept them, and I used them as motivation and so forth and so on. And we're like, we just don't. No. Plus, as Naomi mentioned, we have successful indie author friends, right? And so we, they were gracious enough with their time and information and suggestions and pro tips that we're like, hey, well, what about X, Y, and Z? And they always answered our calls and our emails and our text messages, and they were extraordinarily helpful. And so, we didn't so we, we didn't want to do another 20 years. We wanted to get it out.
Yeah, and I had on a romance author, Reese Ryan, last season, who was did trad publishing, and now she's going indie, and she's like published 30 something books, like traditionally, and now she's going indie. So I'm like, I hope that conversation is still not a thing where it's like, oh, if you self-published, then you're this, and I'm like,
some folks have, and some media people, and that, I mean, some people have, biases that because I think partly some of the stuff that is put out may not, may not be of the perception is that is a lesser quality. And so, but there are, great indie authors. And like we said, we have friends that are, have had great success and extraordinary following. So I think the perception is changing, but in some respects it's still there.
Yeah, and then also I feel like some people don't realize, next I'll go to the next question, indie authors have teams. Like the folks that I've had on that have published indie, they're like, I have an editor, I have a cover designer, I have, so just because you publish indie doesn't mean that you work alone on the island.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. Rivers is a graphic designer. She did the covers.
Nice.
We have an editor. This go round, we did get a publicist just to kind of open up some doors, here in the area and, up and down the East Coast. We did do that. So that was a little bit of a splurge. And marketing is a beast all of its own, whether or not you're traditionally published, hybrid, or indie. But I was a logistics officer. I can plan,
Hence all the emails coming from you.
Uh-oh, did that tell?
Yes. Yeah, because I'll be like, wait, who am I talking to today? Oh, it's Naomi. Oh, Naomi. Okay.
That sounds like the publicist.
Yeah, because I was like, she must be the manager of the team. And then I'll go on to the next question. So given that you do have a publicist now, like what does your book tour look like? And what does your book launch for Why Not Us look like?
So a tour, not necessarily that formal yet.
That would be
okay.
That would be right. River said that would be fabulous. It would be. But we do have a launch date. So for anybody in the the DMV area, we will be November the 14th from 5 to 7 at Charm City Cultural Cultivation Center. It's also known as Zora's Den. We'll certainly look on our website and you can get additional information or reach out and we'll share that. But so we have the book launch. We have a few things coming up next year. Read Out,
which is in Gulfport, Florida.
Indies and authors, and Pride is a big month for us. So making sure that we get to some of the Pride events. And
so we, as you mentioned, you can find all of our events and things like that and our appearances on the website, NaomiRiversBooks.com.
Nice. So the next question I have for you both, prior to having our guests on Black Writers Read, we asked each of them why they write. Here's some of what you offered. We took Toni Morrison's advice to heart in writing stories we wanted to read. Our main characters are African-American women who love women. Romance is consistently one of the most popular book genres. However, finding romance novels that center women of color, especially as protagonists, is challenging. We love good stories about women who look like us. As an author right now, it's a great time to look at our legendary authors, having written and tried to tell us. Octavia Butler, James Baldwin, and Toni Morrison offer such a wealth in their words. Books expose us to possibilities and hope. Writing is radical. It's arduous to be an author right now. During a recent sprint with other authors, a similar discussion was had about the need to do more than write. It feels almost disingenuous to talk about tropes and marketing with our current political climate. And yet we still write and discuss the best ways to ensure readers have access to novels. So, there's a two-part question. I would love to know what from each of these authors, Butler, Morrison, and Baldwin, are amazing ancestors. What from their work inspires you to continue writing? And then how does their work inform your own?
I think for me, many of them I found out through my women's studies in college, right? And fast forward, because I didn't think I was going to be a writer, that, and it's still kind of, it's hard to embrace that, but here we have a second book. So, but Baldwin, he legendary said that, you're going to respect me as a person, my humanity. You have to. And so I think in our writing, we try to make sure that you're going to respect the couple. You're going to respect them individually. You're going to respect what they bring to the table, because, there's a scene in one of the books that the dad has some issue with the couple helping to raise his daughter. Well, certainly you can step up if that's what you like to do. So you are going to respect our humanity. Toni Morrison, you just have to, if you want to read something and it's not there, you're gonna have to create it. And I think that's what we did. We started out with romance, but as you said, there's a whole lot of life that happens outside of romance. And so if we have to skew towards women's fiction to make sure that we get the other nuanced things about life, about employment, about parenting, about parents and friends, then certainly we will, because it doesn't neatly check in the box of the happily ever after. Now, is there happily ever after and Why Not Us? It is. But it's the result of the couple working together, their chosen family, and the other supportive environment that they work within. Octavia Butler, talked about just climate, systemic racism. And I think we have some of that as well. And it's not beat you over the head information, but you see some of the concerns navigating the medical system in Why Not Us. You see some of the concerns about balancing family and just life, and the other things that come with it.
And I've recently heard Mara Braca Keel, the showrunner for like Girlfriends and Moesha, that say that through her writing, through fiction, we can tell the truth. And so in these times when some folks would not like to hear the truth, that there's strength in diversity, that, we should listen to all people, that we should honor different people's differences. We can tell those truths through fiction. And so I think it's important for us to honor Morrison and Baldwin in that way, and Octavia Butler, and sort of that time travel. I mean, very prescient in her writing, in sort of calling out truths, and mask them as sci-fi and fiction. So
I love that Octavia Butler is coming up in this interview, because she came up in a couple of others. And I don't know how many gifts of Parable of the Sower I'm looking at right now, including as graphic novels. And it's kind of eerie, like how she was able to forecast the world that we're living in right now.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We recently, as a family, we have a family book club, and we did Kindred. And so that was a lengthy, like we're going to run out of minutes on this Google meeting conversation, because it was so relevant.
That's cool. Y'all have a family book club.
Isn't that kind of nerdy? But it's
yes, cool. I love it. How big is the book club?
Go ahead.
It's probably 10 people, but we were sitting around at the family reunion, right?
Yes.
And and some of the cousins started talking about just reading and what you were reading, and it's like, we should have a book club. Okay.
Yeah, because what happened was we had gone to a bookstore in Houston.
Kindred.
The name of
right.
the bookstore is Kindred. And so just so happened, one of the other cousins was like, yeah, we went to, because it was like, you know how you're sitting around, you're like, hey, what'd you guys do today? Oh, we went to this, bookstore. And then, oh, we went to this bookstore. And that's how it started. Yeah. Oh, you like to read? So forth and so on. Yeah.
And we try to go to bookstores, particularly Black bookstores, or those that support, LGBTQIA folks whenever we travel. And so that was just kind of like, okay, we're going to Kindred.
So y'all probably bring an additional big suitcase with you to put books in.
Or find the nearest post office
right.
to mail them back.
That's right. That's right.
That is so cute. One of your genres is lesbian romance. I'd love to know what are some themes that emerge in this particular genre? And then can you talk about the types of protagonists and the worlds that you create for these characters? One of the things that I thought that was very unique, but not so much because I feel like y'all are nerds. So I was like, okay, I get this, is the characters are middle class and they're very, like, one is a social worker, which that is a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very misunderstood field and one that plays such an important role in the community. So I was like, yep. And y'all are nerds. So I love this. So can you talk a little bit about the genre of lesbian romance and then about your particular characters?
I will say that I think, we talked about Readout and meeting, a lot of authors, for instance, at Readout there in Gulfport, Florida. It's easy, I think, for some people to set lesbian, gay, the whole, acronym of folks in different in fantasy type worlds and all that kind of stuff. For us, our sense of place is rooted in in our environments, right? And how we navigate certain settings and urban settings and suburban settings. And so it becomes, I think for our ideas, you asked about how does an idea from inception to actually becoming a novel. For us, the story emerges in the ordinary, if you will. So, for instance, in the first book, the characters meet at the harbor. And that's a very real thing. Like, people go, like you mentioned, you've been to the harbor, right? So now, there's a skate park down there. There's, the volleyball courts, and the people are running and just being normal people, right? And so for us, it's the magic in the everyday for us, and how the characters relate to one another. It may be on a train, right? On a metro train, a subway, or something. For us, that's the simplicity of it is what's beautiful.
And so I think also we don't necessarily have the enemies to lovers. We don't necessarily have the age gap. But people like what they like to read, right? They like what they find enjoyment in. But I don't think we are in just one type of trope per se. Yes, it's urban, suburban. You can kind of categorize by occupation. But yeah, it's not enemies to lovers. It's not age gap. Maybe a little bit of second chance. Maybe a little bit of I don't know. Name another one. But it's us. It's us and how we write, and I think that's just reflective of Naomi Rivers. Sometimes we don't always check or get in the boxes that we're supposed to, and so.
And so you mentioned Jasmine being a social worker, which she sort of evolves, but she just like anybody that makes a pivot from a particular profession, she of course takes that caring and wanting to fix things to other areas of her life, and that's where that kind of comes in. For instance, in the second novel, Why Not Us, in that, you know, friend has an issue, she jumps, you know, with 2 feet in. I'm in. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to
we need to plan and coordinate,
which is wonderful. But when you have a partner, right, then how does that impact the relationship and that kind of thing, you know? So,
and this is why that book can help me, because I am newly married. I've been married now 4 years, and I've been single most of my life, and I'm still trying to understand how to, oh wait, I have to check in before I go and do this really big thing.
That's right.
Yes.
Trust me, whether it's 4 years or 23 years, sometimes you do have to have another conversation when you want to do something and compromise.
Yeah.
Communicate.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Just have a simple conversation. Yes.
Yeah. And so in your response to this question, I love that you brought up tropes. And this is a question that I asked Reese Ryan, who was on last season, and she's written like 30 plus books. What are some advantages and challenges with tropes, and why are tropes a unique hook for romance readers?
Go ahead.
Well, you know, I think I shared because certain tropes people gravitate towards certain tropes, and it's the familiar for them. I think the pro is it's familiar. I think the con for any of those tropes is it's familiar, right? It's the same. You know, change the names, change the occupation. It's still the same. It's still the same trope. And I think, you know, the big part of and what makes it different is the person who's writing, the author, you know, because they may bring something a little bit different in terms of perspective of how it's written, of where it starts. But if it's romance, right? Because you got to have the meet cute, the conflict in the middle, and the I know, dear. Yes, and the happily ever after, because this was drilled into me. If you're gonna have a romance, this is what you must have. Then you know you wrap it up with a bow.
But the tropes are helpful from a writing perspective because it offers like structure, right? It doesn't. She's like, structure. It, you know, you know, if you have the trope and you have the beats that you need to hit, if you're going to call it a certain thing, then it helps you go where you're going. It's sort of a roadmap.
Yeah, and this is the first time I've heard tropes as a roadmap, because I know, like, when teaching literature and students are reading, and it happens in my theater class because I teach theater, literature, writing, and arts management. They're like, oh, here we go again. Why can't writers be original? But then, thank you, Rivers, for the whole looking at tropes as roadmaps. Because I know for me, I get a lot of writer's block a lot of times. And I'm just like, why reinvent the wheel? Take a look at what others are doing and make it your own. And so thank you for that with regards to tropes.
I look at them as prompts. You know how you have the journals that, write about this and write about that, you know, in various workshops.
Yeah. That's
how I kind of regard them, but it's you know, strung out over an entire book or maybe a novella or whatever. But it helps in terms because you know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or what that's about. And then you build the characters around those. And for me, and I was an architect in a previous life. So that's why for me, you see it's the built environment for me that helps with the place. Right? It's
making sense now, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. And this leads in so great into the next question, because I'll say this before I ask this question. And even when you read the excerpt today, I was like, y'all pay very close attention to like the environment around you, like getting to the place, the logistics of getting to the place, when you get to the place where parking is and all these things and what things look like and getting to the door. Like those logistics and those visuals are extremely important, but not everybody can write them as well. You do it so well. So with this, A Simple Complex Love Story, particularly Baltimore, plays an important role. And before I ask this question, I need to tell a quick story. So Baltimore, I've only been once. We went my husband's a huge Miami Dolphins fan, and we went for a Baltimore Ravens game like 2 New Year's Eves ago. And not only am I not a football fan, he had a ticket up like in the stadium. It was so high up, he was high-fiving birds. I was like, nope. And I'm scared of heights. He took a picture from where he was, and I was like, you are high-fiving birds. You are talking to people flying helicopters. I'm good. And he was like, yeah, you could probably take an Uber and go to a coffee shop. So I forgot the name of I was so looking forward to it. I forgot the name of the area that I went to. It was by the stadium. It's really cute. It has like all these shops and restaurants and coffee shops. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I can get away from game traffic by going to blah, blah, blah coffee shop. I got out of the car and it was like Ravens fans running everywhere, drunk and falling over the place. And I didn't even get to the coffee shop I wanted to get to because it was so hard to get in, because the coffee shop was downstairs and like a bar was upstairs. And I went into the Starbucks and I asked somebody and they were like, oh yeah, like football takes over the entire city on Sundays. And I was like, okay. So I literally got an Uber back, which took like an hour. And then I was like, yeah, okay. Now I've learned my lesson. So I learned so much about Baltimore in just that like 20-minute experience. So I would love for you to talk about, why was it important for place to show up so uniquely, especially it being Baltimore in your first novel?
I think, you just hit it right there. The whole piece. Baltimore is wonderful. Minus the fact that where it's situated, you can be in 3 hours, you can be in New York, 3 hours, you can be in Florida, plane, train, automobile. We got mountains, we got the Atlantic Ocean, we got the Chesapeake Bay. It's Baltimore. There's only one other city that I know, which is Chicago, who flies their flag the way that Maryland flies its flag. I mean, you can see it in the colors that we wear, the white, the yellow, the red, the black, in all formulations and patterns. But it's Maryland and it's Baltimore. It's a beautiful town. The architecture, the people. We have multiple neighborhoods. Not so much because of whether it's gentrification or just people moving in and out of the city. But, at one point, there was an Italian section. It was, German section, Polish section, Greek. And they all had their own neighborhoods and restaurants. Not as much as it used to be, but the food is still delicious. We gather around food. We have restaurant week regularly, and you're like, it's restaurant week again? Well, yeah, because we gonna go to some other restaurants. And it's funny, that's what our editor said. They eat a lot in your books. Well, yeah, because the food is good and it's tasty, and that's just what people do.
But also, right, people gather around food, and it's this commonality, and it's kind of what we do. But also, it was important to sort of bring a place alive for us in just, again, the simplicity of people living their lives. And we wanted people to be able to put themselves in that place, right? And to say, to your point, like, hopefully when you read this, you're like, oh yeah, this is familiar. And so we wanted settings that were, familiar to a place that not all the time are celebrated, or when you see them, right? From the occupant of the White House, oftentimes there's an expletive, and you're thinking, oh my God, I can't go there because it's so dangerous and all that kind of thing. But there are real people that live in these places, right? And it's not all doom and gloom and crime and all those kinds of things. So it was important for us to show that, yeah, there are real people that live in these places, real loving people, and they are, productive members of society, and they're looking for love or not. And,
And also and the other thing I wanted to mention, because I've had on a couple of other authors from Baltimore. Baltimore has a very special middle class, educated Black community. Like, that was something very clear in his work. And I love that it came up in your work as well. In Baltimore, I'm like, yes, people eat. The food in Baltimore was really, really good. And the architecture, oh my God, some of the homes. I was like, what? And the cobblestone streets. It's so cute. And it's also really easy to get around as well. Like, things are like on the highway, you can get from point A to point B like fairly quickly.
You can. And so let me go back to the education piece. We have 2 HBCUs in Baltimore.
Oh, that's right.
Morgan State, Coppin State. Within an hour of Baltimore is Bowie, and a couple of hours to the east.
Which one?
UMES.
Okay.
To the east. Okay, so directions aren't my thing. But so we have 4 HBCUs in Maryland, and so when people talk about coming to Baltimore, about being educated, and then some of them stay, it's a good place to be. Ashburton, where I mentioned in Leslie's Lament, Ashburton, had a very upper income Black neighborhood. So yeah, Baltimore's wonderful. Come back.
I need to, which we've talked about where to possibly move. And so I'm originally from Detroit, and Chicago is my absolute favorite city. However, winter, which we started rewatching ER, and we were like, why is every episode in the snow? What is happening?
Because it seems like the winter lasts about 9 months.
It does. And Baltimore, like Maryland in general, I love. And we're both in education. We're both educators, but my husband is in the health sciences side, and I'm in the humanities. And you just gave me another justification for Baltimore. I totally didn't realize there were 4 HBCUs, and at some point in my career, I want to work at an HBCU. I didn't realize there were 4.
4 in the state of Maryland. There's 2 here in Baltimore. Yeah,
not 20 minutes from each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Rivers is a HBCU grad as well. So I mean, it's special.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. Your second novel, Why Not Us, is scheduled for release on November 11th, which 11/11. I hope you all make a wish on 11/11.
Veterans Day.
Yes, exact. Yes. Is that why y'all did that?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my God, y'all are so cute. Oh my God, I can't. So how does the story which they're 2 separate books, but characters show up between the 2. How does the story that begins in this continue in Why Not Us?
So the 2 main characters from this they continue in Why Not Us. It's 3 years later. Everything is going along well. They're still in the honeymoon phase, and they're loving. Oh, they're cooking for one another. It's great. And then record scratch. One of the friends gets diagnosed with breast cancer, and as we mentioned before, Jasmine is let's jump in. What are we gonna do? And that character, Leslie, that we heard about from the top, has a daughter, and that's Jasmine's goddaughter. And so how does their relationship, how is their relationship impacted by all of the things that are swirling around that happen just in normal life? But really, when you talk about life and death, that's how. So we see the couple again in Why Not Us, and how their relationship is impacted by various challenges. And so the book is about love, it's about family, it's about loss, it's about chosen family, and does their relationship survive?
And standing in the gap, because we all kind of families stand in the gap for one another. So
yeah, and thank you also too for talking about chosen family. So I identify as queer, and I've lived outside of like my family's my family of origin sphere for a long time, and both of my parents have since passed on, and they passed away fairly young. And so I've had to create my own family. Like I remember when I first moved to New England, I moved out here for a job. And I remember the first Thanksgiving, I was like, I can't really afford to go to Detroit for just 2 days. And so we created an orphans Thanksgiving, and it became a tradition where it was like a potluck and all these things. And then I have a lot of students and a lot of loved ones who's like a really close friend of mine, when she came out of the closet, their family like literally was like, nope. And I was just like, why? And so we have like our little nuclear gang of people who either their their parents are no longer here, or their parents for that crazy reason are no longer in their lives. And so chosen family is something, it's an important theme that shows up in a lot of people's lives. And so thank you for including that reality in your work as well.
Oh yeah, it's chosen family. Just like you mentioned, it can be everything, and for some, it is the reason why they're still amongst the living, right? Because for whatever reasons, things happen with biological people, the relatives. Just because you're related by blood doesn't mean that there's going to be that level of love that comes with. Oh, I know.
Yeah, wow.
I know. And we now have folks that are, I see them more often. I mean, I call them sister cousins, sister friends, and I mean that they are as close as we could be without being biologically related.
Yeah. And one of the things too, because I'm all not only just, in terms of sexual identity being queer, just lifestyle, I'm like I had a really good friend years ago who got really sick, and her family was far away. Her family couldn't get up here, but we couldn't see her or help because they were like, you're either to be next of kin or married. And I'm like, why can't we just designate? Because in some instances, your friends know you better and know what's best for you than your bio family. Like
that's right. That's right. I mean, particularly for some of us who don't have children, or or need a ride to the hospital, or need a ride to the doctor's appointment, need groceries. Becoming ill, aging and becoming ill and needing something can be scary if you don't have that level of support, that level of chosen family around.
Yeah. Wow. And I actually just watched, I forgot what season it was. I just watched an episode of ER, and I'm glad things are in place now, but given Mango Mussolini, there's no telling what's going to happen. It was where it was a lesbian couple. They had a child together. They were married, had a child together. The spouse that carried the child suddenly died. And then her family practically kidnapped the child and forbade the spouse to have access to the child. And because this was like in the 90s, early 2000s, that was the case. And now I'm glad that there are circumstances where both parents can be on the birth certificate. And, there's not this whole, well, you didn't give birth to the child, so it's not your child. I'm so glad that's changed. But with Mango Mussolini, there's no telling what can happen.
Well, first off, mangoes are my favorite fruit. So to have, the nut referred to as my favorite is a bit disturbing. But
yes, I'll change it. Yes.
aside from that, you are absolutely correct. And you brought up the point that that's why, even if you are married, right? This is a public service announcement that you need to have your affairs in order and your
Yes.
business in order. If that's a will as a minimum, right? But a trust if you can, because as Naomi says all the time, the people's worst behavior comes out around death,
Yep.
weddings, and births,
Yep.
right? And so people think they have the I don't know, authorization to act the fool when it comes to to somebody else's money and how things should be, allocated and all that kind of stuff. So, public service announcement, make sure the stuff is in writing and that it is foolproof in terms of the state and in the federal government, and how your affairs are organized.
Because they are taking back up same gender marriage.
Yep.
Right? SCOTUS has said that they're going to take it back up. They're going to rule on whether or not they're going to take it back up around November the 7th timeframe. So we're back here. We're back here again. But we put paperwork in order. Number one, because we were in the military, but two, I knew I know my family, right? And so we had to put some things that were kind of lock, stock, and in place.
Okay.
So that foolishness did not come up. You know how to go. You know how it goes. Oh,
Naomi and Rivers just went all full on black auntie. They were like,
I'm sorry.
I love it.
That's how it
is. Yes.
That's how it is. Your people's body isn't even cold, and they're asking, "Oh, what you gonna do with those curtains?"
That's a true story.
Yeah.
True story.
I will not, because I have loved ones that watch this. I will not name what happened when my parents died. I just know my family. We are an interesting bunch.
That's right. That's right. And eventually we may write about all of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's just it's something about you're right. It's something about life changes where people lose it. And I'm like,
That's right.
what?
That's right.
Just happened.
That's right.
Yes. And our time together has come to a close. Oh my God.
Yes, already. That was quick.
That was so quick. What is next for you both? And how can a Black Writers Read community support you on this journey?
Being here, number one, was wonderful. And so thank you. Buy the book.
Yeah.
And if you have so many books, you don't want to buy any more books, then ask your public library to carry some of the books that you're hearing on this podcast. It's, books from women, books of color, from authors of color who aren't the ones that necessarily make it to the library. We were fortunate as an indie publisher, Baltimore County Library is carrying this, but that doesn't happen without a lot of support. And if you read the book, rate it, review it, and tell somebody else. So,
and you can find us at NaomiRiversBooks.com. Same Naomi Rivers Books on both Facebook and Instagram. And so, yeah, we love to connect with readers and just people in general.
Yes. And I'm so excited for Why Not Us. And thank you for mentioning the importance of libraries, because one, like I'm running out of shelves, so I need to start borrowing books. But also some people, like libraries, I know for me as a child, that's what opened me up to the beauty of reading. And a lot of people, that's their first place. So yes, please request these books at your local libraries. And then also your book. So I have Black Writers Read bookshelves at different community colleges in the region, especially places where I teach because I'm adjuncting right now. And your books, I will be purchasing copies and putting them on the shelves.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Naomi and Rivers, it was such a pleasure to finally meet you both and have you both on. And thank you. Y'all have been supporting this podcast for a while. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to take you off and I'm going to do a wrap up, and next I'll just check in with you after I end the broadcast.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for joining me for episode 8 of season 6 of Black Writers Read. For those of you who are based in Western Massachusetts, I will be co-hosting a live event with Straw Dog Writers Guild on Saturday, November 1st at 3 p.m. at the Lava Center in Greenfield, Massachusetts. I will be chatting with, and I hope I pronounce her last name correctly, Teresa Ocacon, who is based in Boston, about her debut memoir, Who I Always Was. I'll be back here for the next live broadcast on Sunday, November 2nd. Yes, next week is busy. Sunday, November 2nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time with Sharice Francis. Support Black Writers Read by subscribing to my YouTube channel, where many of you are joining us from today, or the audio podcast, where episodes a couple of weeks after they've been live broadcasts are edited, put nicely in a bow, and posted on audio podcasts. They are available wherever you get your catalog of podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, and Amazon Music. While you are on said audio podcast, please subscribe to Black Writers Read and leave a review, as your review not only helps me to curate the series and see what you like and don't like, but also it helps others to find us. I am also on Patreon under Black Writers Read, as your support helps me to continue producing independent media. Also, Black Writers Read, we have a bookshop at bookshop.org. Just look us up, Black Writers Read, and you can purchase the books that have been on the podcast, including the 2 that we talked about today. This, A Simple Complex Love Story, and Why Not Us by Naomi Rivers at our bookshop, and proceeds from those sales go to the author, independent booksellers, and Black Writers Read. So visit us at blackwritersread.com to learn more about the podcast. Thanks to all of you for joining us today, and more importantly, for ensuring that Black authors continue to matter. I will see you next week.